Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 1st of March 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Warhammer Online Wrath of Heroes is shutting down, EA to include microtransactions in all of its future games, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag has been confirmed by Ubisoft, Lab Zero Games asks for $150,000 to make new Skullgirls character, and Spaceteam, the popular multiplayer iOS game, raises only $3,000 for its creator. Warhammer Online Wrath of Heroes will be shut down on the 29th of March according to its creator BioWare Mythic. The game entered open beta less than a year ago, and in fact has never actually come out of it for some inexplicable reason, yet it did still have some wonderful microtransactions and so on and so forth. In a statement, producer James Casey said that as a producer for the game from the start, I am proud of the hard work and effort that made the game possible. I feel sad that it's not able to carry on. I feel we created something special and would not trade the time creating it or playing it for anything. Those of you who spent virtual currency in the game and acquired the so-called currency gems, well, you can't get them back, I'm afraid. It doesn't appear that there is any way to refund those items, so you might as well spend them within the game, although I would imagine that emailing customer support would at least let you know one way or the other. There doesn't appear to be any indication in the FAQ whatsoever that indicates that you can get this money back. Wow, that sucks hard. And that would be, what, the second game we've talked about in as many months that has had a similar problem. We also had Bullet Run, but at least there you were buying station cash, which can be used in other games. As far as I can tell, these currency gems can't be used anywhere else whatsoever, which is quite the nightmare. Now, BioWare Mythic plans to release their work-in-progress characters, and according to their FAQ, they're shutting down because it's simply not financially sustainable, and Mythic as a studio is undergoing a paradigm shift as they shift their focus to mobile devices. Oh my, oh my. It would appear that Warhammer Online, the actual MMO, was continuing to run, and indeed, if you played Warhammer Online Wrath of Heroes, then you will receive free items within the Warhammer Online MMO, assuming that you're actually playing that. Well, I am not exactly that sad. I mean, I'm sad for one reason. I'm sad because the IP was grossly misused. I did a video on Warhammer Online, and I hated it. I absolutely despised it. I thought it was one of the worst games I had played in a long time. It was an utter waste of the license and a blatant example of what happens when you take MMO-style PvP and take all of the MMO out of it. It was a skillless bash fest. You only had 5 abilities. There was no meaningful or worthwhile progression. There was no teamwork or strategy involved in it. It was just a mess. It was horrible. I really, really disliked it strongly. And unfortunately, it seems like not all that many people liked it either, because it was not a successful game. It never even got out of open beta in the first place. It's never been fully released, as it were. Is it just me, or is it a little bit ridiculous to have microtransactions in a game that's still in beta? I know this is happening a lot. I mean, hell, even Dota 2 has microtransactions. It's a game that's still in beta. Star Conflict does. There's a bunch of other games that do, but when I'm seeing this kind of stuff happening, I'm getting more and more gun-shy about ever spending currency in these games, especially since the game could just implode within a matter of months and the money that you've actually spent on it disappears into the ether. I think perhaps companies should at least wait until the game launches in order to actually give you that currency, or at least give you a right to refund if the game has not gotten out of beta yet. But, well, there you go. Oh man, it was... I always still have nightmares about Wrath of Heroes. It's like, wow, all of the possibilities and all completely squandered in a dreadful, dreadful game. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't the biggest fan of the original Warhammer Online either. I think that was the time when I stopped getting super hyped about MMOs. This was a time when I was sort of moving off of WoW and I was looking for other experiences, and Warhammer Online seemed ideal for me. It's a license that I cared about, a world that I cared about, and it was made by a proven developer that made Dark Age of Camelot. I'm like, this sounds great. And it wasn't. It was really not very good at all. And I did not like that game. And I still have the collector's edition just sitting in the corner saying, ha ha ha, you bought me, you jackass. Never again. Never again. But Wrath of Heroes was infinitely worse. Warhammer Online is a playable game. Warhammer Online, it's a half-decent old-school MMO. And I say old-school in the terms of it being like WoW, not like, say, the original EverQuest or Asheron's Call or anything like that. It was okay. Not great, but okay. Wrath of Heroes, a bloody, unplayable mess, as far as I'm concerned, with very little skill involved whatsoever. I think the only thing I'm kind of sad about when it comes to this announcement is saying, oh yeah, we're Mythic and we're moving to mobile. No! Oh, God. Oh well, here's hoping they can come up with something good for my iOS toy. I feel like today's gonna be a money-themed show. In fact, it kind of is. 4 out of 5 articles are to do with money. This one is to do with EA. Apparently they can't afford to continue to fund Mythic stuff, but good lord, can they afford to put microtransactions in all of their games? Speaking at the most obnoxiously titled conference ever, the Morgan Stanley Technology, Media and Telecom Conference, a man by the name of Blake Jorgensen. I think that that's some kind of action hero name, but there we go, yes. He is the CFO, that's the Chief Financial Officer of Electronic Arts. Blake Jorgensen said that the company has decided it would be a good idea to put microtransactions into all of the games. All of them. The next and much bigger piece, he said, is microtransactions within games. We're building into all of our games the ability to pay for things along the way, either to get to a higher level, to buy a character, to buy a truck, a gun, whatever it might be, and consumers are enjoying and embracing that way of business. What? I have to imagine that he has access to metrics that we do not, yeah? Because everything that I see on the internet says we hate this business model in every way. However, that doesn't really tell us much, does it? That could be the vocal minority. It very well could be. It could be that these things are certainly helping them out way more than they're hindering them. He pointed to The Simpsons Tapped Out, which is an iOS cow clicker game, as an example of this working well, claiming that they did $25 million in Simpsons business last quarter, and that there's an opportunity that they can spread to other games. Well, honestly, it's a cow clicker. Those kind of games are designed to suck the money right out of you, and fine, you're probably going to make a lot of money on that. And it doesn't really matter, because you can't really compromise that game, because it's not a game. Yeah? There's nothing to compromise. There are no principles that you can change. It's not a game. It doesn't have anything resembling gameplay or mechanics or challenge or anything along those lines. It is literally just a instant gratification, press this to get gold and build your town even though there's no planning involved in it whatsoever. It is a time waster. That's fine. It doesn't matter if you milk people that play that, I don't care. My mother-in-law plays those games. She is literally a void of taste. As in, taste disappears when it's in the immediate vicinity of her, never to be seen again. Teleported to some kind of parallel dimension, one assumes. So, that's fine. That's okay. You want to milk those people, that's fine. No big deal. It's when you start shoving this stuff into traditional single or multiplayer games that things start to get a little bit problematic, because the risk is you fundamentally alter the gameplay and the design aspects and the balance of the game because it encourages people to buy stuff. I said this during my Dead Space 3 video, and while I didn't see any evidence that that was happening there, that does not mean that it's not possible later on. The only way that you can stop that from happening, and be absolutely certain that it's not going on, is not to do it to begin with. DLC is fine. That's okay. It's not necessarily good value, but I don't expect content after release. That's not their job. They sell me the game, I expect the game to be content complete, and then they can start working on content after the game is out, and then they can charge me whatever the balls they want for it. That's totally fine. Admittedly, there are some situations where it can suck. They sell a pack of weapons, for instance, that they developed that are more powerful than the current weapons in the game, and yet people on your server can use them regardless of whether or not you own them. That would be an example of bad DLC. But we're not even talking about DLC here. We're essentially talking about optional services that don't actually require any real development, that could potentially compromise the integrity of the design of the game. We're talking about the notion that you could instantly buy all of your upgrades on day one, for instance, in Battlefield 4, and anyone that paid for them would have an inherent advantage, at least for a while, over the people that didn't. There's a good example. Think about the flares issue, for instance. Unless you had flares on your plane or your helicopter, then you were inherently more vulnerable and would just get your ass kicked unless you had these things, yeah? And this was the situation. I remember launch day at Battlefield 3. As soon as someone managed to get flares out, he was a god of the sky. No one could bloody well touch him. And he was incredibly dominant. And anyone that didn't have it, well, they shouldn't have even been in the plane because their plane wasn't going to last all that long. It was easy enough to take them down and so on and so forth. That's where the problems start to arise. What they did with Battlefield 3 about, what was it, like 12 months down the line? Or was it actually less than that, maybe 6? Where they gave you the option to just unlock everything for cash. Yeah, it's a cash grab, but it's not a balance problem, because by that point, most people who have spent a lot of time on the game already have those unlocks anyway, so you can treat that as kind of a catch-up for those who are just getting into the game, or those that simply didn't have the time to actually level up and get all of those weapons and things like that. That's okay, but they're talking about day one stuff here. They're talking about the stuff that popped up in Dead Space. That day one stuff that allows you to skip content or make content easier, and it sounds optional until you realize that there is such a huge risk of it affecting the rest of the game. It's too much of a temptation. I'm sorry, I don't trust EA to do this right. Why would you? Give me one good reason. They have shown no inclination whatsoever to be fair with microtransactions. Never. Even since The Sims 1, we have been complaining about milking from EA when it comes to stuff like expansion packs and DLC and things like that. And as The Sims have become more and more interconnected with the EA network, it's only gotten worse. And SimCity looks like it's going to suffer the same thing and things like that. There is no reason to trust that EA will do this right, which is why, as far as I'm concerned, this is really bad news. And unfortunately, there is also no evidence to suggest that the sales of EA games are plummeting enough to make them rethink this strategy. Indeed, there are analytics that they are working from, numbers that they can see, which clearly indicate that this is working for them. So, as much as the vocal minority, that being us concerned gamers, are crying out against this, evidently there's a hell of a lot more people that are just happily willing to accept it. So some interesting things happened on the Assassin's Creed front over the last few days. Some leaked images indicated that the next game would be going by the name of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and would have a piracy theme going on with it. Well, that's now been confirmed by Ubisoft, who I guess realized that they couldn't really keep the lid on it anymore. So we now know that the next game in the Assassin's Creed series will in fact be on a pirate ship of some description. So we do know a few things about it. It's going to be on PC, PS3, Wii U, and Xbox 360 at minimum. Don't know anything about a potential Vita release or anything about next-gen machines at this point in time. We do also know there's going to be 60 minutes of exclusive gameplay on the PlayStation 3. Good lord, do I love having to buy games for the inferior platform in order to get the superior experience. That I cannot get enough of. Good lord, please bend me over a barrel. Supposedly it stars a new protagonist. As you might imagine, it would be a little bit weird if we had the other guy. I can't remember his name. Stupid Native American dude, whatever his face is. Not as good as Ezio. So you just call him that, yeah? Like, much more boring than the other dude. Apparently there's going to be a new guy by the name of Edward Kenway. He is a pirate assassin, obviously. He is the grandfather of Connor, supposedly from Assassin's Creed 3, and they're looking at the game being set in 1715. The actual shot of the game features a cutlass and lots of pistols. Anything that has a brace of pistols in it sounds like a good idea. I am noticing a distinct lack of hat, which is a little bit disturbing to say the least. I'm hoping that hats will somehow be available. Also, he appears to have both of his legs, both of his eyes, and no parrot has been deployed at this time. So that is somewhat disappointing. But they are expected to release full details of the game on Monday. So we should hopefully know a little bit more about that. A little bit weird that we're getting an Assassin's Creed game with a subtitle that's part of the main series line. We obviously have had some subtitle games before in the form of Brotherhood, as well as Revelations and Liberation, which was Assassin's Creed 3, and all of the stuff that was on the DS that we don't really care about. But this is Assassin's Creed 4, it is the main storyline, and it has a subtitle by the name of Black Flag, so hey, there you go. Whatever the case, it's pirates! Woo! That sounds like a good idea. Apparently the naval system was pretty good. when it came to Assassin's Creed 3. Some people were actually claiming it was the best part of the game. I really don't know what they're going to be doing with the whole acrobatics thing, but I guess you can climb up a lot of netting and get up in the crow's nest and possibly jump off it into conveniently placed hay bales, so that might be worthwhile. You know what I'd like to see? A free-roaming Assassin's Creed. You have your own ship, you go around doing side missions, you sail, you get involved in naval battles, and it has this whole open world thing going on. How amazing would that be? I'm talking about more open world than Assassin's Creed was, because I know you could run around the city and anything, but think about it for a second. Being able to ply the high seas in your own ship, be able to upgrade your ship, get involved in naval battles, sail around this huge ocean area, visit different islands and stuff. If they don't do that, then they screwed up, quite frankly. So here's a strange tale. Lab Zero, the folks behind Skullgirls, asked for $150,000. The question is, of course, what for? Well, the answer is for a character for their 2D fighting game, Skullgirls. You might ask, well, who the hell is Lab Zero? I thought this was made by Reverge Labs, and also the actual owners of the franchise went by the name of Autumn Games. So who the hell's Lab Zero? Well, what happened was Reverge basically got laid off and then rebranded and reformed Lab Zero, and they are continuing to work on the game in some limited capacity. Now, what they did was they went and asked their community for $150,000 for a new character, which sounds like a huge amount of money. They went on Indiegogo, and what happened? Well, this has only been running for a few days, and they still have about 26 days to go. $256,000 raised thus far. Jeez, that's massive. Holy hell. And for a character as well. And this caused a lot of controversy because people were like, are you kidding me? $150,000 for one fighting game character? What the hell is wrong with you? My house costs less than that, and so on and so forth. It's nuts, really. However, what they did was they went completely open with it, and they actually broke down where the money was going. So, let me list it off for you. $48,000 in staff salaries, 8 people for 10 weeks. Yeah? So we're talking about $600 per week per person. Alright, that's actually not a lot. I mean, you might think that it is, but no. For a software developer, no, not really. If we went by that and, of course, extrapolated it to 52 weeks of the year, we're looking at a total of $31,200 before taxes. That's not a lot of money for software development. $30,000 in animation and cleanup contracting, so they're actually farming a lot of this stuff out. $4,000 for voice recording, $2,000 for hitbox contracting, $5,000 for audio implementation contracting, $20,000 in QA, $10,000 in first-party certification. Yeah, enjoy that. That's what they charge you if you want to actually release an update on a Microsoft console. It's bloody wonderful. $10,500 in Indiegogo and payment processing fees. Youch! And then $20,000 for manufacturing and shipping of physical rewards. So they broke the whole thing down. And this was supported by many different people within the scene, including, of course, Seth Killian, who is the special advisor at Capcom and generally the guy behind Street Fighter, CEO Dave Lang of Iron Galaxy. Those are the guys that are working with Capcom on stuff like Darkstalkers Resurrection, Marvel vs. Capcom Origins, something they've already done. He also claimed, yeah, this is pretty accurate. This sounds right to me. All of this sounds pretty much how you would expect it to be. And according to the actual article itself, Skullgirls cost $2 million to make in the first place. So building characters for a game like this is actually incredibly expensive. Bear in mind, of course, that Skullgirls only has 8 characters. And honestly, the characters are basically the game, right? It's a fighting game. So if you don't have the characters, you literally do not have a game. The only other thing you've got is like music and menus and backgrounds and stuff. That's really of no use to anybody. So you are essentially building a new part of the game. This is why I honestly felt that people got really upset for no reason when Capcom announced Super Street Fighter 4. That game had 8 new characters in it, and it also had a new Ultra for every character and a bunch of other stuff. Now, there were some rumors circulating that each of those new characters cost $1 million to develop. Good lord, because of all of the other balancing stuff that has to go on with it and the absolute precision that you have to design these characters with. So, honestly, yeah, welcome to game development. This is how much it actually costs. So think about that the next time you think, oh, this game isn't worth $5, because chances are they spent a hell of a lot of money on it, and you have no idea. So do go check that out. It's over at Indiegogo if you want to support that. They've already reached their goal. They're looking for stretch goals right now, and apparently people really bloody well love Skullgirls. So hopefully they can actually get it on PC. I've been waiting for, what, 8 months for it, and it has not materialized. And finally, because I haven't got done depressing you enough today. Good lord, what a mess it's been for the most part in this show. But the guy behind Spaceteam, by the name of Henry Smith, formerly of BioWare, has come clean about all sorts of different things involving his game, but the thing that I'm most interested in is the amount of money that he made from it. So, this game, as of January 22nd, this is in a big interview on Giant Bomb. You should go read the whole thing. It's absolutely fascinating. Link is in the description below this video. As of January 22nd, this game has been downloaded about 100,000 times, and there were 4,000 in-app purchases for it. The game was free, and he made $3,000. $3,000 for his entire game. Wonderful. Wow, that's a huge amount. No, it's not. That's actually terrible. What the hell? That's just depressing. I mean, those of you who haven't tried Spaceteam, it's a very interesting multiplayer game. You can only play it multiplayer, and basically what it involves is you use iOS devices, so an iPhone, an iPad, or an iPod Touch. You connect via Wi-Fi, and you have to yell commands at each other, and it's hilarious. I played it with Jen, and it was absolutely wonderful. It's even better when you play 4 players. You get these randomized control systems on your screens, and you have to yell at the other guy what to do, because you've all got to work together to save the ship. And it's funny. It is a really, really great game. Awesome, really interesting, innovative concept as well. And apparently it made him no money whatsoever. I guess that's what you get for releasing it for free. But in this case, what happened was the in-app purchases were definitely not required for the game at all. And what happened? Nobody bought them. Nobody cared. So there you go. I guess you can see exactly why all these other companies make these purchases either highly desirable or almost mandatory to progress. Because otherwise, you don't make any bloody money. God, gaming sucks right now, does it not? I might as well just kill myself. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Today's been miserable, can you tell? I'll see you next time.